Alright, boys, it's another NBA media tier list. Not as many people this time around, because, well, I already did one, so there's not going to be as many, of course. I will admit that I'm pretty conflicted with Draymond. Obviously, the guy knows way more about basketball than me. There's this video where he breaks down some of his defensive plays with Doris Burke. I love that video. However, I don't know if we see that Draymond the majority of the time. I think he tries to be more accessible on his podcast, and of course, not everything needs to be a super deep dive into X's and O's. I mean, I do really enjoy his off-season content. I think it's really interesting and fun conversations with like DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Kuzma, all that stuff. But I also remember when he's been on the halftime show of Inside the NBA and he really dives into the game he's talking about. And it's like, bro, I really want more of this stuff from Draymond. A couple of quick examples being like, what would he have to say about the timing of when they brought help against Tatum and Jalen in the finals? Because a lot of the time it was like from the opposite corner, or sometimes it was really early, sometimes it was really late. Or how about against the Mavericks where Steph hedging on screens to not get switched onto Luka, or other times where Kevon Looney would switch onto Luka and try to like shade him towards the help, you know? So anyway, Draymond gets a B. Windhorst. So for a long time, I think Windhorst, it was the meme. He's the LeBron guy, and that was his shtick, right? Even though I've always liked Windhorst, but then he had the thing when he talked about the Jazz. It's an all-time thing. What's going on in Utah? So for that alone, I kind of want to put him in B. Like, I'm probably still going to go C on Windy because I think his overall thing is like, again, not the best analyst, not the most entertaining dude in the world. But man, that one thing with the Jazz is great. And he's a likable dude. Like, I like Windhorst. I think some people give him crap that he doesn't deserve. I'm still not going to give him like higher than a C, but he's okay. Windy's fine. Next, we have CJ McCullum, who has been on ESPN a little bit. When I see him and JJ Redick going at Stephen A. Smith and doing the actual basketball stuff against Stephen A., it's beautiful. I love the hell out of it. However, and I say this as the monotone guy who talks over NBA pictures, I think CJ sometimes is a little too even keel. I mean, we get it. We don't want you to be Kendrick Perkins and just flip-flopping all over the place, and one day you have this strong take, and the next day you have a different strong take on the same topic. But I do wish that CJ sometimes would just like be like 4% more mean. I do think that's kind of necessary sometimes. Now we get JJ Redick. So JJ, of course, look, when he was first appearing on ESPN, he was the people who use NBA Twitter darling, basically, because it's, oh my god, finally, the real basketball talk. And yeah, I appreciated the hell out of that with JJ. And I've listened to maybe every single podcast the guy has dropped. I do think he's better than your average person at getting more out of NBA players in podcasts. Because, like, and I say this as someone who loves, like, The Low Post, for example. Not every single player conversation on podcasts is always that great. I think JJ is better at it. And then as far as, talking the hoops, I remember he did this breakdown on ESPN of how Dorian Finney-Smith got a bunch of his threes in that one game where he went off against the Suns. And it was cool just seeing him highlight like how Phoenix, just their timing on help, and how Luka had figured it out and he was throwing the skip pass to Finney-Smith at the perfect moment. Like, it was just good stuff. He's not batting 1,000 though. He did have that Giannis is not on the same thing as Embiid and Jokic, which he has since walked back a million times, but in the heat of the moment he did say that. And also, of course, the plumber's fireman thing. We'll just do the S tier now. It's Nekias Duncan. It's the iconic Twitter picture. The hashtag is big time. For those who listen to Nekias' podcast, the Dunker Spot, along with Steve Jones, who is someone that I go to on Twitter a lot when it comes to remembering plays from playoff games and stuff. So Zach Lowe was the only S tier I had on the last one. Nekias has been on the Low Post in that time frame. That was an awesome podcast. They were talking about like Miami's offense a lot. I mean, he'll really dive into the stuff. There's something about listening to Nekias Duncan talk about drop coverage and how deep a big is in a drop, or if they're higher up on screens or whatever. It just hits differently than anybody else. I don't know exactly what it is. Another one of his go-tos is empty corner pick and rolls, and he had a great article about how Miami was running those with Jimmy and Bam in the playoffs. Nekias is the whole package. He gives you the super nerd stuff, but he doesn't go too far into it to the point where he's difficult to understand. To me, he's going to keep on going, and I think the sky is the limit on what he can be in NBA media. All right, next up we have Shanae Agumake, who was on NBA Today. I feel like she's a little underrated when we talk about the better NBA media people. One thing I'm talking about is the idea of talking about the game beyond just stars played good while still being entertaining. I think Shanae actually might be better at walking that line than most people, to be honest with you. And part of it is because she's very animated, and also she gets to the point. which is cool because I just pulled up a clip of where they were talking about the Warriors offense, and Stephen A was on there, and he took like 50 seconds to basically be like, Jordan Poole's good. And meanwhile, she took 20 seconds to be like, hey, it's constant movement, it's, pin down screens, it's cuts, it's, all the Warriors things we know of. So anyway, Shanae gets A tier. I think she's really good. Tim Legler. Tim Legler also gets an A. I just saw a thing on YouTube where Legler broke down a play where Tatum got a screen at the free throw line off ball, and then he screened for Marcus Smart, and then that led to Kyrie switching onto Tatum, and then Tatum got an easy 15-footer. It was great. Vince Carter. I feel like Vince is like a C. I feel like he's just kind of running around out there, man. He's just getting the talking points in and calling it a day. There was a thing about the Sixers, and, Shanae's talking about turnovers for Harden and all that, and then Vince Carter's like, yeah, Harden's not under that much pressure, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Anyway, Cassidy Hubbard. I'm going to go with a B on Cassidy Hubbard. I feel like she was on track to being huge, and then ESPN kind of didn't know what to do with her. Like right now, usually what she's doing is like Twitter stuff. She does like Twitter live streams, and I just think she's better than that. I think she's got the energy. I think she, to me, could be more of an analyst, but I think ESPN just sees her as a host. But of course, Malika's already the host of NBA Today, and I mean, she does an amazing job. So I just feel like they haven't put Cassidy in the best positions